How you guys feeling? Awesome. I love that energy. It's really an honor for me to always come back to this stage. I have spoken at every single NET meeting since it started, except for the one that I wasn't here because I was trying to get a kidney. It wasn't a joke. It's true. But I am really honored to be here again and share with you guys probably what I'm the most passionate about when it comes to the business. And so I do have a question to kind of get started. Raise your hand if you love when customers connect with you and you feel like you're having an awesome experience and right? And then it just makes it all worth it, right? That connection that you're having, you're laughing, and you just feel like they're on your side, they're with you, they want to buy from you, they want to buy only from you, they want to buy over and over again, right? So I know it doesn't happen all the time, but that is what we all want. We all want to have those long-lasting relationships. I got to tell you, if it wasn't for the relationship with my customers, I probably wouldn't be here. Selling knives is cool and all, but I just love people, right? And just building those relationships. And I remember when COVID happened, everybody was freaking out. And I'm like, are you kidding me? This is going to be so awesome. I'm going to sit down and connect with my customers and sell a bunch of knives from like my Zoom room. And this is going to be reconnect with people that I haven't talked to in 20 years. And it was awesome. I had my best SC2 ever the year of COVID. $117,000. Think about that. And I think it was something like 80% of it was all past customers, all of it done on Zoom. I never left my house and sold $117,000 in 2 weeks. And that's what I want to talk to you guys about. How do you build those relationships so that you feel very secure in your business? You feel like no matter what happens, you have an army with you all the time. So that's what my talk is all about. So I'm going to break it down into 3 things. I try to keep things very simple. So you can grab whatever really makes sense for you. So write this down if you're writing something. Uh-oh. All right. ECN. I kind of break it down into those 3 points. And for me, that's obviously my perspective, but I know that all of you can relate to what I'm about to share. And sometimes you just don't allow yourself to get into that state. You know, one thing that I really appreciated, Brian Carter is the one that said it. He said, I don't want to just have a bunch of transactions. Yeah, we love transactions. We love getting that credit card. We love rolling that order, right? But I also want to have those relationships. For me, that's what makes my business so much fun. I tell people all the time, selling Cutco, connecting with my customer is the easiest thing in my life. Like literally. Everything else is 3 times harder. Running a nonprofit, 3 times harder. Selling Cutco and having fun with customers, easy. No joke. And why? It's because ECN. So I'm going to break it down to you guys. First thing is experience. What do I mean by experience? What I mean by experience is actually 2 different ways to think about it. One is what kind of experience do you create for your customers? When they come to the booth, if you go to their house for a service call, they walk in your service event, what kind of feel do you have? What kind of experience? I've always thought I'm supposed to be the expert. I'm supposed to be the one to entertain my customers and make them feel like they have never had an interaction like this to buy a product. And I love when customers come back and say that. They're like, this was already at the end of the night. They're like, I had so much fun. So I'll tell you guys a quick story. One of my favorite customers, Kaylani Atkinson, she's in a home now. And she's been my customer for 15 years. She's bought over $12,000. She bought for her kids, for everything. And now her son is my customer. And he came to the booth and like recently, and he was telling me about how she's doing. And then he said, you know, I'll never forget when you sold my mom $5,000. Actually, it was $8,000. When you sold my mom $8,000, most of it she bought one. And she said to her family, I've never had so much fun spending so much money. Like, how about creating that experience for people, right? So I'll go a little bit deeper, but I also want to talk about connection. So I kind of feel like there's a flow to this, and this is why I kind of wrote it down for you guys. What kind of experience do you create for your customers? What kind of experience are you having with them? And then how do you create that connection? I'll give you some tips on things to do that. I know most of the time people say, but you know, you either have it or you don't. Like, it's not like always easy to connect with people. That is not true. And I will share certain things with you that I think will help you internalize how to connect with people. Okay? And the last thing is nurture, right? If you want that long-lasting relationship, you got to nurture it. And I'll share some things on how to nurture that too. So this is one of my favorite things that I've ever done, creating an experience for a customer. So if you see here, it says made on the, look at the side, made exclusively for Sam and Chad. So this is during SC2, at a service event, these customers have bought, they started with a Signature, upgraded to an Ultimate, flatware, cookware. They have a Cutco kitchen, and they bought over 3 years, literally during SC2. But this past year, so I kept telling them, hey, you need that second Ultimate set, right? Now, some of you, if you have the Vast Action sheets or any other sheets and you guys promote the Santoku pieces, right? We used to have those straight edge Santoku pieces. Who knows about those? So they're discontinued, right? But I had one Pearl set, one Classic set. I have everything in both colors when I'm displaying. At least I have that option. So I kept those for them just so they could have the full Ultimate with the straight edges. It was just the most incredible thing when they came into the service event and right in the front door, it says that. And the idea was to tell them this is exclusive, not the forks, right? But the other knives are exclusive. We don't make that anymore. And this is part of like something that basically is a limited edition, no longer exists, and you can have it. I mean, just seeing their faces of what was happening. And I know you may not be able to replicate this experience, right? But think about other things. I would say have fun on how creative you can be to create an experience for people. Like that's what I'm trying to share with you, right? Now, I also wrote down a couple points here. Be impressive. And that's kind of like in that spirit, right? Be impressive. So one of the cool things that I'm doing in 10 days, and I kind of worked it out with one of my customers who buys from me almost at every boat show that I see him. In Christmas, we had, I send the marketing and they know their specials. And we talked about, it's like, I'm coming with some friends at the boat show this year. I'm like, awesome, love hearing that. But, they always, when they come, they're like those loud customers, right? They're like, we love Costco. They have like an army with them. There's like 10 people. I'm like, what if we created something really cool? You know how much Darcy loves the flatware. So what if we got the flatware and I had it at the show waiting for her in a little table by itself with her name on it? So he bought the flatware. He went for it. So in 10 days, I'm going to have a table in the back of my booth just for them with her name on a flatware chest with an engraved plaque. Think about how cool that's going to be for her. Can't wait. So that's the idea. How do you create experiences that knock people's socks off? And of course, I've turned these people into business gift clients too. So now they're buying for the home and they're buying for their business. So I kind of wrote down something here, and I know this is kind of basic, sell them off of something. But I do love selling people off of something. Like when you are really working through a customer and you're really doing it for a customer, sell them off of something that you really don't think they're going to need or they're going to use. And that creates what? Trust. It creates trust. And I genuinely feel that way. Hey guys, I know we're in this business to make money, and I love the success and every toy and every great things that the money I've made here have brought to me. But at the same time, that human connection and really creating that trust the feeling that you get when the people walk out the booth and you know you took care of them. And they will take care of you. And that's the kind of experience that I want to always have with my customers. Creating an exclusive feel. So you saw that example. And essentially leaving your mark, right? Like, why should they be loyal to you? And that's always what I focus on with my customers. Like, why? I know there's a lot of other tips that you heard throughout the whole conference, and they are important because verbal, them hearing things like, welcome to the Cutco Andy family, right? I say that every single time. Every single time. Welcome to the Cutco Andy family. Hey, by the way, anytime that you need anything or you see something, call me, text me. I will always go above and beyond for you. You don't need to cheat on me to get it. It's important to kind of plant those seeds because sometimes they just don't understand how it works, right? And so you create that loyalty through verbal communication, but again, it's that connection. So let's go to a little bit to illustrate this, part of experience and connection. So I love these three pictures, and I'm going to tell you why. I'm really going to focus on the one on the left. This lady, her name is Ruby Bennett. I met her about 16 years ago. At the time, I was, doing demos, lots of demos and stuff still. So I went to her house, did a demo, and before we got to anything, it was very hard for her not to express to me that her husband had just died literally a week before. And she started like crying and all of that. Anybody has ever had a customer cry? Okay. Don't stop them. Don't try to change the subject. Connect with them instead. Okay, that's like some of the deeper connections that you can have. And so, long story short, we're having the appointment, and she's crying. I'm talking to her about it, and I told her like, tell me more about your husband and all that stuff. But here's the thing that was super cool that happened on this appointment. So she shared with me that she had been trying to do like a CD of all the pictures that would matter to some of his best friends to send it to him. And she started crying again. She's like, I can't figure out the computer. Like, I can't figure out how to do it. She's like so like heartbroken. And I'm like, oh, let me help you with that. And so I went in front of a computer, created the album, and we created the CDs. And she made like 3 or 4 CDs, 3 or 4 copies, and she was like the happiest thing. It's like she had another son that came to her house. This is somebody that just lost her husband. She has no idea what's gonna happen. She's very scared. And then at the end, I just still did the demo, and then I'm like, hey, do you wanna get the set? And she's like, I do. And I'm like, what? You seem so insecure, and now you're like, yeah. She's like, you're awesome, the product's awesome. I don't know, I'm gonna do it. And she bought the Ultimate. Here's what's cool. This service event was 4 months ago, where she came back and bought another Ultimate set for her other son. And she had actually bought another galley on the phone from me at some point. Anyway, she's building now. She has 3 sons. She's building a set. She's like bought 1 Ultimate, and then she's like giving a couple blocks and different knives, and we're kind of building a collection. This all started with like a customer crying and just connecting with them. So I just want you to know it's not going to happen all the time, and it's not going to happen very easily at the booth, but it does though, right? And it does also at service events. So most of the 2 people on the side have been some of the most loyal people, and the reason why I have them here, the one on the top is like, she's the kind of person that she lives very far, but she's the most reliable customer. And even though I can't always service her, I send my assistant to sharpen her knives like once a year. And so that is something, by the way, in the long run you can kind of create. But what's nice about that is like always taking care of our customers. So what I would summarize in here is like, how do you always take care of your customers? Don't always think about how much is that going to cost me? Like if a customer, you have a great connection and you can tell that they care about what you're doing, they care about the product, how can you go above and beyond for them? And that has just, like I said, paid off tenfold. And just invest that time and sometimes money. So over here, this is the last part of this. left customer on the left. I call her Aunt Susan now. And the reason she came to one of my events, and it was a fair, super hot outside. She's running, and then she sees a little opening, and she's like, "Can I sit here for a minute?" And I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely." So I had her come down. I gave her a bottle of water. And like, she was not coming to buy knives. But I just told her and welcomed her. And funny enough, the person that was working the booth with me is like, "Why are you letting this lady sit here?" I'm like, "But why not? It's a human. Just like us, she's hot. Like, let's take care of her." So no intention to like be down her throat about buying anything. I'm just having fun with her and just letting her be. At this point, I met her a year and a half ago. She's already at $6,000 buying from me. Think about what's possible when you just treat people the right way and you just connect with people, right? The reason why I have the last two pictures, do you know these customers where one of them is like all in and the other one's not? Right? I mean, literally, so in this picture, the one on top, the husband, not. But I broke him down at that event and finally upgraded them from like 4 pieces to an ultimate, and that's the celebration. And the one in the bottom, you see how the wife is pretty close, she seems happy? She hated me for so long. She's like, "I hate when you're talking to Steven. He always wants to buy something. He always wants to buy something." She did that for like 2 to 3 years. And now they're like what I call my soldiers. They buy every single SC2. They've bought over 10 grand. But the beautiful thing about it, it's so funny because their kids have a lot of Cutco now. And one of them told them, "I think you have a knife problem." And they told him, "I have a Cutco Andy problem." But it's so cool how, like, don't give up on people, especially if you have one customer that is always connected to you, but then the other one seems to be distant. Break that barrier. You already have one of them that loves you. Break that barrier. Don't be scared to always connect with them. You never know what's going to happen when you finally connect with the other one. Does that make sense? Make that effort. Guys, our business is so beautiful and so easy. Our knives make our job so easy. Just connect with people and the rest is going to happen. Like, that's literally where things are at. So let's talk about connection. Interestingly enough, I do live in Florida, so that makes sense. I do come across a lot of people who are dying. So, well, people come to Florida to die, we know that. But it is paradise, and that's why I live there. So let's think about being present. If there was one slide that I could write, I can just type, "Be present, be present, be present, be present, be present," that would be the slide that I would repeat it over again. That is one thing that I really take to heart, is when I am with somebody, whether it's at a dinner or a conversation, I am fully present with the conversation. Because why not? Because that's the only chance that you actually connect with the person. And so we broke the record. This is the first time I sold 100 grand for SC2. But the story of this guy you're looking at plays a big role in the future of business gifts. And I'm going to tell you why. So he had like a homemaker when I met him. And I went to sharpen his knives. His wife was in hospice at the time. She had been in hospice for 3 weeks. And we're just like, I'm like, "Wow, I can't believe you asked me to come sharpen your knives. Your wife is in hospice." She's like, "Honestly, I really needed a distraction." And so we started talking and all of that. Long story short, I sold him 6 grand that day. And just the connection was so great. I went to a wedding in Napa. I bought him a bottle of wine, and then I went back to his house. And then I shared the bottle of wine with him. The wife had already passed. And then he bought 15 grand of business gifts, which was my biggest order at the time. Now, what's cool about him, he really actually is one of the reasons I became a national consultant for business gifts, because he had his own company, and we talked about how to build things the right way, and how building, sometimes it may take longer to build something, but when you do it right, it's unstoppable. And I've always been very passionate about business gifts. And so when he shared that with me, I talked to corporate and all that, and I'm like, listen, I want to get more involved into the development of business gifts. And he is the one whose quote is on most of our advertising. The company is Pharmacy Development, and he talks about quality clients. So if you ever see that, that's my customer right there who inspired that and has been like a super supportive on the development, at least with me, when it comes to business gifts. But how do you create those connections, right? I talk about being present. I talk about finding common passions and interests. Listening. I know like you probably heard this like 5, 10 times during the conference, but you have to listen to people. Like, don't be that person that's like waiting, like, I'm waiting for them to stop talking so I can say something, right? How about listening, especially when you're doing the rapport? I mean, I run orders all day, so it's not like I'm sitting down trying to have an hour and a half with a customer, right? But make it count. When you're having a connection and you're talking about anything as you're building rapport, this is kind of like my approach, like at the booth, right? I obviously grab their attention, all the stuff you heard about, like cutting the leather and like grabbing your attention, the quick little pitch, and then I do a little bit of rapport, and then I go into like the second part of my pitch, which is like more showing all of the sets and all of that. And the reason is because the rapport is, for me, I'm not just trying to have a great business and result today. I'm trying to build a relationship so that July is going to be great, the end of the year is going to be great, any time is going to be great, 5 years is going to be great, 10 years is going to be great. I've always said when I've spoken at conferences that I believe that most customers can be $10,000 customers plus. And it might not even be a Cutco kitchen, right? It might just be gifts and all kinds of stuff like that. Now, I did want to give you guys a little nugget. One of my favorite book of all time. Who's heard of The Likability Factor? Raise your hand if you heard of that. Okay. So, I really highly recommend that you read this book by Tim Sanders. I'm going to read something from it a little bit just to kind of get you guys motivated. The choices other people make about you determine your health, wealth, and happiness. Decades of research prove that people choose who they like. They vote for them, they buy from them, they marry them, and spend precious time with them. The good news is that you can arm yourself with a contest and win life's battles for preference. And that's by raising your likability factor. The 4 points: friendliness, your ability to communicate liking and openness to others; relevance, your capacity to connect with others' interests, wants, and needs; empathy, your ability to recognize, acknowledge, and experience other people's feelings; realness, the integrity that stands behind your likability and guarantees its authenticity. I recommend that you guys look for that book by Tim Sanders. It's a very short read, so if you don't like to read, it's not going to be hard. But that will help you kind of narrow it down and feel kind of validated on things that you can do to connect with people. By the way, this talk is not really just about customers, right? This is relationships in your life, people on your team, family, friends. How can you apply all of that to your life? These are like skills for life. I know I wrote down laugh with them, and I think that goes by saying. So my next picture is nurture. So I kind of share a lot of pictures because it's been like a journey and it's so much fun. This whole thing here is like 2 brothers and their wives and 2 other friends. And interestingly enough, as I went along to sell to them over the years, the one that bought the last has bought the most now. So it's interesting to see what's possible. I've hung out with them in their beach house in Key West, and like they invited me, and I spent a couple of nights with them. Just phenomenal experience connecting with people. You don't have time to do that with everybody. To be honest, I wish I did. Because it just makes life so amazing. But no matter what, just communicate with them. You heard all the different ways to communicate and stay in front of your customers, right? Through Vast Action, through like the Squid Pixels, to all the marketing that you can do to stay, to texting based on all the platform. Whatever you do, nail that. Nail that so it's just your systems and you can focus on really connection after that. So reconnecting, I wrote down take responsibility. Anybody ever made a big mistake on order and then don't know how to fix it, right? Own it. That's the biggest thing I can give you. Own it. Every time I own it, like magical things happen. I could share stories, but I can tell you the best way to do it, hey, this is one of my best ways to say it. Hey, I wish I could be your hero and tell you like a really cool story that could really make sense, but the reality, I just messed up. And I just want you to know that. So, and it's unbelievable when you own your mistakes, how you can reconnect with people at a totally different level. Showing gratitude and appreciation is obviously one of the easiest ways to connect with people and nurture that relationship, so you don't want to take that. And then I'm going to share some things about above and beyond. Now, before I wrap this up, because I only have 3 minutes, I have to share with you guys that 15 years ago, I did the wrap-up for RDC. You guys probably don't even know what that is. That was the biggest conference at the time. Oh, RDC fans here? There you go. And I brought my #1 customer of all time to the conference. I was the first person to bring a customer to a conference, and it was intense. A lot of you guys know her now because she is also the president of Angel Wings, so we actually built a medical clinic together. And that had not started when she came, by the way. That started in 2010. Today, I was supposed to have my #2 customer come here. That's why you saw #2 on the last slide. He traveled all night with his wife and unfortunately couldn't make it. So, but I do want to share a little bit of his story. He's like heartbroken not to be here. It all started with one cheese knife. One cheese knife. I met him in 2010, sold him one cheese knife at the boat show, and it was very hard. It was a slow day. I probably spent an hour with him, and it was kind of like those people where you're like, man, like we have such a great connection. What are you talking about? You're not going to get it, right? Do you guys ever feel that? Like, what do you mean? And I'm like, and it got to the point where I'm like, no, you have to buy one knife from me. You have to. Like, it's just impossible. You have that connection, you can say that. And finally, he's like, well, which one do you think? I'm like, the cheese knife. It's my favorite knife. So cheese knife, went to an ultimate, went to steak knives, more steak knives instead of table knives, 2 flatware chests, and then he started buying business gifts from me. And this has been about 6 years he's been buying gifts from me. So 13 years, halfway through the relationship, and now he's over $40,000 in Cutco. It all started with one cheese knife at the booth. So I share this story, and I wanted him to share this and also share why he kept buying from me. But I share the story because I wanted you to know that every customer can count. And if you keep giving them an experience, if you keep connecting with them and reconnecting with them and nurturing the relationship, they could be your $50,000 career CPO customer. They could be your first $50,000. I can't wait to take a customer to $100,000. I can't wait to have one order over $100,000, right? So as I wrap up, a couple things here. Go above and beyond for your customers. I don't have a lot of time to share the story of Kyle. Kyle is a customer that I made a mistake for, and I forgot to approve his logo, didn't get his order before Christmas, super pissed. I took a bunch of trimmers and spreader, went to his house, left it in front of his door. He's like, I'm so sorry. And like, can you maybe use these on me and give it to all your clients and tell them there's something else that comes? He was so impressed that he obviously, he actually gave me back the trimmers and spreaders because he was like, that was awesome. That was the most impressive thing anybody's ever done, to drive to my house an hour and a half to drop off some other things just to at least try to make up for what they did. And funny enough, I thought for a minute that I would have lost that customer, but that customer ended up giving me not only a testimonial that is like an official testimonial now, it's like amazing, and bought $7,000 the next year, and now he's starting to open doors and refer me to other people. And that's what you can do when you solve issues very fast. Help with something unrelated. I know I kind of shared some of that. I kind of like shared a lot of those things, but essentially, guys, just remember we're all people. Treat people like they're people. They're not your enemy. They're not like from another planet, just people just like you. They want to be heard, they want to have fun, and they don't mind spending their money when they are happy. So, good luck.